And I was just told, well, that's the burden of your genetic heritage. You got to learn to live with it, and that's where I just couldn't consider and perceive of whatever time is left for me, just to live in pain.
Colin, how did you find carnivore?
Well, David, it's one of those weird things where I think you've spoken to quite a few people like myself who had just got desperate. And because the condition I was in, which was related to a persistent and long term gout problem that I've had since the age of 14, believe it or not, it's inherited genetically through my family. And it's been an issue that's been persistent throughout my entire life. Uh, and once I got into my 60s, and I just found myself getting more and more into perpetual pain. So life was pain, and you just had to live with it. Went to I don't know how many specialists. I've been hospitalized with this gross inflammation a few times. I've had to have my right knee replaced because I got septic arthritis, which was gout related. It's just been one of these things that I thought I was cursed with, for want of a better term. And medications worked sporadically and not consistently. And it was apparent to me that whilst I was very careful with my foods, right? So you can't eat purines, which are the big sort of gout things. Don't drink alcohol. Very clear on managing and ensuring that I don't ingest anything that's going to give a risk, particularly red meat. And but nothing was working. And then I came across the YouTube carnivore thing, and I sort of clicked on it. Um, and then I thought, wow, some people were describing inflammation and the fact that carnivore could affect it. There was some on gout, and that gout was in fact alleviated through carnivore, completely against the medical recommendations. And I thought, okay, I've got nothing to lose. I'll just give it a go. And I thought, I'll just do a week, 7 days, and this was 2 months ago, and I'm still going strong. But the astounding reality was, my expectation was that I'd be into severe gout attack once I started eating. A steak for me, I thought, was lethal. But I went boots and all. So the what's it called, the BBBE thing, the beef, butter, bacon, eggs. The approach I took, and I haven't had a twinge of gout in the last 2 months. Um, and all the benefits you hear time and again, once I started to do some more research, were being validated through my direct experience. So the evidence was there. I contacted my doctor, and she said, "Well, Colin, you're insane. You are this will exacerbate." And I said, "Well, the evidence has got an opposite story." So it was literally circumstantial. I sort of had fringe understanding of keto, uh, but carnivore was brand new to me, and it was just luck that I clicked on a video. I've been watching a few of yours videos too. Thanks, Dave. So you are part of my education in this, and here we are.
Do you have theories about so what was causing the gout attacks before you started eating red meat? Was it related to fructose, or what was the diet like?
Well, I ate what I considered fairly healthily, right? So and it was basically the classic Western thing. I I was conscious of carbs, um, but I did eat a lot of fruit because I assumed it was healthy. Um, I did eat bread, but not to not in great amounts, but it was enough. A piece of toast with breakfast and so on, but it was a pretty standard diet. But the gout kept affecting me. So in hindsight, from what I can base it on now, fructose must have been a major contributor to this, because the sugars, as I've gone deep into my research, and again, when I say research, it's it's not hugely profound, but it's just anecdotal. I didn't realize how poisonous sugar is. I mean, I knew too much was bad, but man, it's from what I'm learning, is that it's, you just mainlining a toxin straight into your body, and it's obviously the inflammation was triggered by that. And red meat was off my diet list, as I used to eat a lot of chicken, and I did eat eggs, of course, and occasionally I would have a little bit of pork, but red meat was a no-no. And I used to go to restaurants and watch people enviously tuck into a steak and think, "Oh man, I'd love to have steak." Now I have steak every single day, and the the expectation is that I should be triggered into a flood of purines into the body, which would then turn into uric acid, which would then leave me with pain in my joints. And when I say joints, elbows, hands, feet, of course, which is typical for gout. But I would be in wheelchairs and on walking sticks and all of the drama that goes with that. So it was a real Hail Mary to go to Carnivore, and the results are indisputable, that I have not had a single gout attack. Coupled with the other benefits that I've been discovering, which is better sleep, my energy's improved. I'm 67 years old now, and I spend a lot of my life traveling. I have my own consulting company, and I'm on stages a lot in front of audiences. And I'd used to be wiped out after a day of presenting or facilitating. Now I get to the end of a day, I still feel kind of juiced. I'm not shattered. So all I'm eating are these four things, and I'm still kind of bewildered by it all. There's part of me that's expecting that suddenly this is going to sort of turn, and the gut will come back in with all guns blazing. But so far, it's been fascinating. So yeah, so fructose must have contributed to it. The fact that I now eat less, I've lost weight, but that wasn't really the goal. But I've lost 8 kilos, and so it's 8 kilos in two months, which is good. Uh, the never hungry thing is also weird. The challenge for me is traveling. So I've bought these meat sticks and biltong, or beef jerky, and so I've got to manage that. The only time I didn't do carnivore was when I was in Munich 3 weeks ago with a client. We were running an event, and they took us out to a two Michelin star restaurant, and it was a degustation menu, and I didn't want to offend, right? Because I didn't want to say no, I choose only to eat the red meat. So I thought, well, this was 12 courses of these sort of super exotic. I only had four of the courses because I started to feel ill. It felt wrong in the mouth. It was so odd, and everyone's swooning around the extraordinary flavors, and all I could feel was this. Didn't feel right. It felt wrong, and so I had four courses and bailed. But otherwise, it's been staying with the exact same diet, basically day after day after day, with still a part of me in doubt. Right? How is this working? But so far,
Yeah,
the evidence confirms it.
I mean, I can understand the feeling of like one of these days it's just going to come back because
Yes.
when my arthritis just went away, I was like constantly kind of testing it, thinking, no, this is going to come back one day. It's only a matter of time, you know. I can lift my knee up now, but tomorrow I'm sure I'm going to have problems, you know. But fortunately, it never did come back. But yeah,
Well, this is the thing that really astounds me, Dave, is that this goes against conventional medical advice. It contradicts all the education we've had on what food we eat. So what I've been schooled, educated, and brought up with um, seems to be contradicted. Well, it is contradicted by this carnivore diet, and hence my desperation in trying anything because of the pain. So it does throw into question other medical advice that I've got in my life, uh, and the worldview that we have around how our complex system works, and the realization that no other animal in the world doesn't know what it should eat, unless they've been domesticated. But any wild animal knows exactly what is required for their system. But humans, we haven't kind of worked it out. It is so bizarre that we are still confused about what it is that we should eat to best support our system. And uh, uh, you know, I remember when my mother was still alive, she used to love butter, and she would smear big, thick, butter on her toast and bread and stuff. And I used to admonish her, going, "You can't eat that. This is bad. Butter's bad for you." So I became an enabler against against this stuff because, of course, I thought this was the right thing to do. I mean, this is the challenge for it. Uh, in so once I get to 90 days, I'm going to go back to my doctor and I'm going to get all my bloods and stuff done. And I'm going to explain to her that for 90 days, I've eaten four things every single day, except for that one little um, uh, deviation into the two-star Michelin restaurant. But and see what her reaction will be. I think she was going to be bewildered. Uh, the other thing, Dave, because of my work, I talk in front of audiences all the time. Is I've occasionally mentioned that I'm on this carnivore diet from the stage, and the a number of people that come up afterwards and go, "So tell me more about the carnivore diet." Well, you mean you don't want to hear about all my words of wisdom that I expounded for the last couple of hours? You just want to hear this, and it immediately provokes intrigue. Everywhere I go, people go, "What?" And they want to find out more. So I think there's almost like an innate intuition that there's something here that kind of is going to challenge all the conventions that we have around food and what we eat. And every time I open my fridge and all I can see is bacon, butter, and steak, and my pantry is empty. There's nothing in it. I took all that stuff, all the cans and food, and it's gone. And so I have this this kitchen with this big fridge, which I don't need anymore, which used to be packed with fruit juices and vegetables and salads and all, you name it, like we all do. But now it's so simple. Eat twice a day, my breakfast and then my late lunch, done. Uh, so yeah, it's really intriguing, and of course I'm sure there's research now that's probably never been as wide into the genuine realities of carnivore. So I'm keeping my finger on the pulse to see what transpires.
Mm, that's that's awesome. I find it funny that you do this 1 or 2 day training session, and then the thing people really grasp onto is the carnivore part. Um, but yeah, and regarding the pantry, it's great if you're looking for more cupboard space. Carnivore is, because um, so how long? Like, when was your first gout attack? How old were you?
I was at boarding school in South Africa, where I'm originally from. I now live in Australia, in Melbourne, and I got this inflamed uh, uh, inflammation in my foot, right? And I thought I must have kicked something, or I don't know, sprained it. It was a pain I'd never experienced, and it was so severe that I knew it wasn't. I would have noticed it if it had been a break or a strain or something, and I was played a lot of sport, and my big toe, because that's where classically tends to start, was this throbbing red thing, and I couldn't put a shoe on, let alone a sock. And I went to the nurse, and they sent me off to the doctor, and the doctor said, "You've got something called gout." And for me, I hadn't even heard of the term before. And then I did some a little bit of research on it, or the doctor helped me, and I had this association of gout as being a like an old man's thing, right? It was an old person illness. But here I had it, and this my grandfather had it, my father had gout, and I had it. And they gave me, this was many years ago, as you can imagine. So I started at 14. It was very occasional that I had gout. Into my early 20s, though, it became more regular and persistent, and I was taking a lot of the required drugs. There's something called pro gout and other medication to manage it. But my life was built around my gout awareness, because I'd wake up in the morning. My first thing I'd be checking is there heat or tingle in my feet, because that would typically where it would start. When I got into my 40s, it started to get worse. And in my early 60s, I've been in hospital 3 times in the last 5 years, all related to the severity of gout attacks, including getting septic arthritis into my right knee, which required uh, knee replacement. And I was just told, well, that's the burden of your genetic heritage. You got to learn to live with it, and that's where I just couldn't consider and perceive of whatever time is left for me, just to live in pain, right? As many millions of people sadly do. Uh, so the idea that if the medication isn't working, the diet that they recommend isn't working, what's a radical innovation that I could do in my life? Because I was doing the fasting stuff as well. Maybe if I didn't eat for 2 days or 3 days, maybe that would break down or whatever. So I was messing around with stuff until this very, very simple carnivore diet thing was offered. And if you've got B, and E, beef, butter, bacon, eggs, that's it. Makes life really simple. And the
Yeah.
traveling is my only challenge. But apart from I'm managing that. Uh, the weird thing is going into restaurants, and because when I'm on the road, I'm living in hotels, and I'll look at their menu and I'll go, look, I'll have the steak, but nothing else. I go, what about the potatoes and the blah 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 and the blah and the what sauce do you want? No, no, no. I just want the steak. They go, nothing else on it, just the and to get them to even recognize. And then they come and they put the steak down in front of me and they look at me quite confused way. And but yeah, that's it. That's all I require. Yeah, so it's been an education, it's been an adventure, but best of all, the results have been extraordinary. Uh, I, I get a little concerned that I'm going to start proselytizing too much. Uh, you sort of because so many people come and ask me questions about it, and I just find myself go onto YouTube. Go and watch Dave Mack. Go and listen to the this who's the butter girl, beef and butter girl,
Steak and butter girl.
steak and butter girl. She's fabulous. And these wonderful people that are only talking from their direct lived experience. Right. That's really the ultimate proof of this. And there's been validation, obviously, by medical doctors and other specialists that confirm the benefits and value of it. But the best thing that we can all do, I think, is to go and try it out. Just test it and see what the benefits are. You're not condemning your life to being a carnivore, but you can experiment and test and check for yourself, which is what I've done.
Yeah, and the important thing about testing is, like, even if you feel good, like, yeah, I feel pretty good, I can play sport and I can do all this stuff and whatever, until you've actually tried cutting out the carbohydrate and going carnivore, um, you don't actually know how good you could feel, right?
I think that's a good point, Dave, because in my work, which is lots of travel, it's very intense. um, I kind of was locked into sort of like a zone, but it was driven by determination. I didn't enjoy it. I wasn't enjoying. I was just doing. And since the carnivore, I've been aware of waking up feeling joyful. Uh, there was a comedian in Australia called Barry Humphries, who was a character and he had Dame Edna Everage. I'm sure many people would know who I'm talking about. And in his biography, because he had a lot of uh, challenges with depression and the times of his life of feeling very alone and isolated and so on. A lot of creative people, I think, do this. But he was describing walking through on a Sunday morning through the streets of Melbourne when the autumn leaves were crunching underneath his feet, and he got to the Yarra River, and there was a bench, and he sat down, and suddenly he felt this feeling, and he thought, "Oh God, I'm having a heart attack!" Right? He had felt this pressure in his chest and in his body, and then he realized he was experiencing joy, and because it was such an unfamiliar experience for him, goes, "Oh, this is joy." He was in the moment. He was in the present moment. He was in that wonderful flow state, and I've been experiencing this last 2 months, right? These, you know, rather than waking up and thinking, okay, I've got to do this, and this, there's this moment of I catch myself feeling joyful without it being related to anything. There's no trigger or context. It's just there's something in the body that's going, you're doing it right now, right? And so my biochemistry is balancing, my hormonal structure, the stuff that's happening in my brain through the nucleus accumbens and the limbic system is more effective. I'm thinking with greater clarity. Uh, just last week, I was in Sydney. I was on stage, and I had a 5 hour delivery, which is a long time. And I remember there was one moment when I just felt I'm in I'm in I'm in true harmony right now. Like every word was perfect. The tonal quality was exactly needed for the context that I was in. The and there was just this almost like a blissful, what you might expect in meditation, but I was on my feet talking, and I can only attribute this to this massive change in my diet and the experience I've had for these last 60 days.
That's awesome. So just actually on the when you're doing when you're delivering,
Yeah.
um, as you say, it's a long time to be on your feet and doing that. Like when you were experiencing the gout attacks, like would you be in a situation where you just all of a sudden have to cancel a delivery and you just wouldn't be able to do it, or you would have to do it seated or something?
I it's exactly right. I've had to cancel events because of the pain. Um, I many times have presented on stage with walking stick, or I'm seated on a chair with wheels on it, so I can at least move around a little bit. Uh, and the sort of the my physical posture was also, I was starting to notice. So I was starting to go into that, the old man thing of like you just start to bend, and I could feel that my posture starting to crunch over, and I was at that part. And then you throw in a walking stick, man. You just know this is almost this is like archetypal, right? You start crawling and then you start walking and you end up back on the what's it that Egyptian saying, you start off on four legs, then two legs, then three, because the three is the walking stick. And but that has it was every day was an anxiety around the gout thing. And yes, it affected my work. It obviously affected my peace of mind, and it was stressful. But yeah, let's let's see what happens now, because
Yeah.
I am feeling more energized than I have done in decades.
Mm.
It's just these 4 damn things I'm putting in my body. It's so weird.
It and it's crazy that it's just been 2 months.
Well, I have seen videos of people who go, "I've been on this for a week and my life has been transformed." And, when you ever read stuff like this or you listen to someone like this, you go, yeah, okay." It's that
What are
skeptical
you
part of you that,
selling? What
yeah, like,
potion do I have to buy?
yeah, it's got a culty vibey thing going on, and you're going, well, but what's the cult, right? You're just asking yourself. No one is coercing you. There's no one forcing you to do this. But try this out. Just eat this for a few days and check it out. And that's it, right? So uh, there's no fees to be paid. There's no there's no license to sign up to. There's no app. Don't have to download anything. There's nothing to subscribe to. It's just, here's a suggestion. Give
Yeah,
it a go. I mean, that's
yeah.
basically it. And
The only thing you've gotta do differently is change your shopping habits. Yeah, it's
how weird is shopping now? Because you go into a supermarket and you just see these rows and rows and rows of these packaged stuff. Of course, they've got the big vegetable area, of course, but I have a butcher near me that does this grass fed stuff, so that's where I go and buy my meat, or I go to the farmers markets on the weekends. Uh, but you see these supermarkets, and they're just full of this processed. I mean, your awareness on food, my awareness of food now is so elevated just in these I mean, I was aware of it with gout because I couldn't eat anything with so-called purines in it, which is all, most seafoods, and in terms of vegetables, you can't eat peas and mushrooms and spinach and kale and asparagus, none of those, and of course red meat, absolutely a no. So I've gone against the entire purine story, that because that's what I eat now is really, I like my steak kind of rare, so I'm eating basically rare steak every single day. Eating 5 eggs and bacon, and that's it. Oh, and heaps of butter. The other thing I've also discovered is having like a cheese slice of butter is really delicious. You know, and when I say this to people, they go, "Oh, how can you eat butter?" Man, it's so delicious. Uh, and then there's also the simplification of palate, right? I'm not craving sweet and savory, and because I think food has been fetishized. Is that the word? Because we're so absorbed with all this variety. Just pare it down. The sheep eats grass. The lion eats meat. The human eats beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. It's so
right,
simple.
it's the sheep is never going, "Oh, I'm sick of the grass again?
Yeah,
What?"
bloody grass. Yeah, yeah.
So
It's we are being the only animal that doesn't know what to eat is so weird.
yeah, well, I think there's, very, very clear evidence pointing to the fact that we're the only animal that doesn't know what to eat, but we're also the only animal that has a wallet. So,
That's right.
it's you know, if sheep
Yeah,
had a wallet, then they'd probably be anti-grass as well.
that's
It's
right. Yeah, if you can make money out of it, people will go for it. I'm just drinking huge quantities of water.
oh
Um,
well,
I I was a massive tea drinker, uh, so that's one thing I have kind of missed is cup of tea. Uh, but I think I will go back to coffee though, at the end of 90 days. Um, I just like the ritual of it. Having a cup of coffee. Probably won't go back to tea. I don't know why. I've kind of lost the. I've lost the. I don't miss it anymore. I did in the first couple of weeks, but I think it's just I'm so habituated to it. But now the thought of tea kind of feels repellent. But I don't have that feeling with coffee. So we'll see.
Yeah. Nice. So, if someone came to you and said, "Look, Colin, this obviously, you're doing better now that you're eating this carnivore diet. I'm skeptical, but I'm willing to give it 90 days." What advice would you give them to get started?
Well, I think it's something you've got to. You can't do it gradually. You just got to go. I start now. Um, is what I did. So I would suggest the same to same to others. Uh, and uh, and as always, this thing around you always have a choice. All right. So remember, you're not you're not being forced, coerced into this. This is every day you can make this choice and see what the evidence tells you, what your experience tells you. Uh, and I think I've seen a couple of videos of people saying, I just thought I'd do it for a couple of days. Exactly, just do it for a couple of days, and it's that that's that wonderful one day at a time idea, right? Because you only can live your life one day at a time. Ultimately, we only have this moment, right? This present moment, and who knows what's going to happen next. And we look at the world; it's kind of in chaos, and the levels of illness, and you can see the issues with Western cultures move into morbid obesity, the huge escalation of diabetes in Western cultures, particularly in the United States, and on and on and on it goes. We realize that the industrialization of food has not benefited anybody, and yet at the same paradox of our world, we've got billions of people that are not getting enough sustenance each day, and people are starving to death around the world. So we've got this weird disparity in our society. But ultimately, as human beings, one of the things that sustains and supports us is eating the right things that can have societal benefit. So there's part of me that's now thinking about what is my what is my responsibility in thinking about the consequences of the diet that I'm using for myself, and what this might mean for my family or my communities that I work and live in. But come back to your question. Just try it out. Just do it and see what happens. So that would be my advice. And the thing would be, start on a Saturday, uh, because you got a weekend. Uh, because Monday is associated with work and other rituals. But if you do the Saturday and Sunday, then you're likely to keep going on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So that would be my one mental trick you could play with yourself, is to start on a weekend when you're rested and not under pressure.
Yeah, nice advice. Um, Colin, how can people reach out to you? Do you have any social media or any way of connecting?
Oh, well, I have my own business, which is colinjamesmethod.com.au, which is my website. I'm on LinkedIn. Colin James speaker would take me there. I'm not a social. I mean, I don't do YouTubes and TikToks and that's that sort of thing. I'm an educator. Is really what my work is. Uh, we have our company's based in Australia, but I work we work globally. So I spent probably a third or half of my year in Europe, US, and Southeast Asia, APJ. So yeah, it's a all-consuming life when you run your own business. Have a business partner, Erica Bagshaw. She's our CEO. She is really the brains behind the operation, and we have our front of house team, which is our facilitator group. So, yeah, our website will give you some information about what I do, and yeah, if people want to reach out and have a chat, I'm certainly up for it. And I've got to hold myself back from proselytizing too much, as I mentioned earlier. But man, it just sparks intrigue in people. It just does.
Yeah. Nice. Well, I'll link to your website and your LinkedIn below. Um, Colin, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your experience. I really appreciate your time.
Well, Dave, it's been great to talk about it, and thanks for again the opportunity to do this with you. And I'll keep my eyes on your content because it's always interesting and insightful.